Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We're looking at an absolutely unprecedented event from 2018 that shattered 45 years of total silence. We're going to explore a case that haunted a California community for literally decades. It was a mystery that seemed permanently frozen in time. That is, until a completely revolutionary approach to communication and technology finally gave a victim her voice back.
So picture this, it's July 2018, exactly 45 years after the victim's body was found. The Newport Beach Police Department basically hooked the entire nation. They hit pause on all their regular Twitter content, and instead of posting some standard, dry press release, which, let's be honest, people just scroll past, they spent the entire day recounting the cold case of an 11-year-old girl named Linda Ann O'Keefe. But they didn't just tell the story. They tweeted it in chronological order, directly from her perspective. They tweeted things like, "Hi, I'm Linda O'Keefe. I was murdered and my body was found in the Back Bay. But now, 45 years later, I have a voice again." It was incredibly powerful.
A voice after 45 years. The 2018 Twitter campaign.
Alongside those haunting tweets, the police released a suspect sketch. But here's the crazy part. This wasn't drawn from an eyewitness memory. It was actually generated by phenotype prediction technology. Basically, this means they used DNA left at the crime scene decades earlier to digitally predict and reconstruct what the suspect's face looked like. They were telling the public, look, the killer left his DNA behind. And sure, the tech didn't exist in 1973, but today, it changes everything. The summer of 1973, a tragic disappearance.
Let's break down the incredibly rapid and tragic sequence of events that unfolded over less than 24 hours. It was the first summer vacation after America officially withdrew from Vietnam. On the afternoon of July 6th, 11-year-old Linda left Lincoln Intermediate School where she was taking summer classes. On her walk home, a witness actually saw her standing next to a turquoise van talking to a white male driver in his mid-20s to early 30s. Now, the witness didn't see her get in, and unfortunately, they didn't catch a license plate. By that evening, her worried family had reported her missing. And then, the very next morning, the worst happened. Linda's body was discovered in a ditch near a nature trail in the Back Bay area. She had been abducted, sexually assaulted, and strangled. Now, the absolute crucial point in all of this is the incredible foresight of an unsung hero, forensic scientist Jim White. He collected and preserved biological evidence from Linda's body right there in 1973. You really have to remember, DNA technology for criminal investigations simply did not exist back then. There was no national DNA database, no wild concept that genetic material could someday literally draw a picture of a suspect's face. White just kept the evidence safe out of pure, brilliant professional instinct. The decades-long cold trail, hiding in plain sight. For decades, the suspect completely evaded capture. But the Newport Beach PD, they never forgot. They kept Linda's photo right on their wall as a silent, intergenerational commitment to finding justice. So how did the killer hide? Well, in 1973, he was living as James Albert George Layton in Orange County, just a quick half-hour drive from where Linda was taken. Shortly after the murder, he just packed up and moved, completely changing his name to James Allen Neal. It was a totally calculated move to sever any connection between his old identity and any police records. He ended up settling down in Colorado, living this completely normal life under an assumed name, miles and miles away from that turquoise van. Tragically, there was a completely devastating cost to this case going cold. While he was living freely under his new identity, from 1995 to 2004, James Neal was accused of sexually assaulting 2 other young girls in Riverside County, California. That's 2 more children harmed roughly 30 years after Linda by the exact same perpetrator. It's just heartbreaking. The genetic genealogy breakthrough, partnering with Parabon Nanolabs. Let's walk through the exact steps genetic genealogists use to finally crack this thing wide open. You see, the immense media pressure from that 2018 Twitter campaign really propelled the department to take this high-tech step. First, they took that DNA so carefully preserved by Jim White in 1973, and they uploaded it to a public genealogy database. Second, the system found partial matches, basically distant blood relatives. Third, genealogists painstakingly built out extensive family trees from those matches, and that eventually pointed them right to 72-year-old James Allen Neal in Colorado. Fourth, investigators didn't just go knock on his door and tip him off. They placed him under surveillance and secretly collected a DNA sample he left behind while just going about his normal day. And finally, step 5, the lab confirmed a complete, undeniable match between Neal's fresh sample and that 1973 crime scene evidence. Bingo. So in February 2019, the man from the turquoise van was finally brought into custody. James Allen Neal was arrested in Monument, Colorado, and extradited back to California to face charges for Linda's murder as well as the assaults on those two other young girls. Orange County District Attorney Todd Spitzer, who crazy enough was actually 12 years old and growing up in Southern California when Linda was killed, announced the arrest. It really showed how the strategic use of DNA had finally found the answer.
Lessons from Linda's case: the legacy of a 46-year pursuit.
But, tragically, there was no courtroom conviction here. On May 27, 2020, James Allen Neal died of an undisclosed illness at the age of 73 while awaiting trial. He literally died in custody before a jury could ever hear his name read out loud in a courtroom. As DA Todd Spitzer pointed out, Neal's death robbed the O'Keefe family of the formal justice they so deeply deserved, and it totally deprived investigators of the satisfaction of a legal conviction.
Despite that ending, the legacy of this case is absolutely vital for modern police work. These 3 key lessons perfectly sum up what we should take away from all this. First off, preserve evidence. Jim White's gut instinct back in 1973 was the absolute sole foundation for identifying the killer 46 years later. Second, utilize media pressure. The Newport Beach PD had literally no new leads when they launched their Twitter campaign. They just took an old question and presented it in an entirely new way, creating the exact breakthrough pressure needed to utilize genetic genealogy. And third, we have to recognize the ongoing danger. A cold case isn't just delayed justice. As we saw with those 2 other young girls, it's a terrifying opportunity for a perpetrator to continue harming new victims.
So I want to leave you with this really powerful question. Is there preserved biological evidence in a cold case that you care about, just waiting to be retested with modern DNA technology? Because as Linda's story so profoundly proves, the key to solving a decades-old mystery might already be sitting quietly in an evidence locker. It might just be waiting for the right technology and the right voices to finally bring the truth to light.